loved ones. This is Matt Stevens, and this is the My Sober Addiction Podcast. And we are happy, healthy, wealthy, and free. And we are also joined by Clive, my new friend. Hi, how are you, Clive?
I'm very good, thanks, Matt. Very good indeed.
Clive has really impressed me with a lot of the things that I've seen on his website. If you haven't been there to his website yet, I know I've recommended it a few times now. If you have not been to his website, you need to do that because he's got some very innovative things and things you don't see on other people's websites. And never mind other podcasters, but even other people who are into the recovery industry. I hate to say that word, but anyway. So, yeah, Clive, I've listened to some of your podcast episodes also, particularly the ones with you and Dom talking. And you guys have really put an interesting spin on things because it's not the usual 12-step. And I'm not poo-pooing 12 steps. I'm not. Please understand, loved one, it's not like that. But 12 steps doesn't work for everyone. And there are other ways to do things. I think that's kind of what Clive is on to here, is he's got some very interesting and innovative ways of looking at things. So if you wouldn't mind, Clive, if you want to expand on something, maybe the echo or whatever you want to touch on.
Well, if I give you a bit of my background and how I ended up here first, might be kind of interesting. I'm now, I think I'm 50 years old. I'm halfway to the century. And I've spent, I think, probably 30 years of my life with quite a lot of addictions and habitual behaviors that weren't as helpful as they could have been, I think. I think I've probably got a bit of an ADHD style brain. I'm not particularly bothered about getting diagnosed for that. It's just a bit of a mess in my head some days. I have an awful lot going around my head and it never stops. It doesn't shut up. And I know some people don't have an internal dialogue, but mine is like a box of frogs, probably on speed. They are constantly talking to each other and they don't give me any peace. You've talked about guided meditations and stuff. I do think they're incredibly helpful, but I do find those quite hard to sit down for anyhow. So, but again, that's something I'm starting to build the muscle of kind of sitting there and just quietening my brain. And when you do quieten the brain, especially after 50 years when it hasn't shut up, it's like, oh my God, that's quite amazing. So we can change. That's the first thing. But anyhow, 50 years on, I studied psychology. I did a psychology degree. And I have to be honest, I don't see what psychology is doing to stop people getting addictions. In fact, I think it's used to give people addictions through advertising, media, dissatisfaction, fear-based media and news. Anyhow, so yeah, I didn't fit into that very well. And I didn't become like a doctor of psychology or anything, which over in the UK, you become a psychologist, you become a doctorate, you do a doctorate in it. So I ended up working in kids' residentials, homes and in Sure Start centres and generally helping kids from families where there were a lot of issues, you know, potentially addiction and neglect and a lot of things going on. And you could also see how that would then affect the kids to have their own addictions and their own neglect and their own stuff going on. And I'm thinking, God, you know, psychology, it's driving me mad because psychology doesn't seem to be addressing this in a way that seems very effective. They seem to pathologize and say that people are dysfunctional or whatever, but they don't go, well, actually society is sick and, you know, religion's divisive or this, that and the other. And everything's very confusing for a lot of people. And perhaps we need to have a look at that. I do think that potentially we could be doing more to prepare people for a world that is very confusing. And yeah, within that confusion, I think a lot of people lose themselves. They don't know what they're looking for. They don't know what their purpose is, or they don't know how to find stability and security. You know, if you talk of Maslow's hierarchies of needs and such, we do need that security. And I was talking to you just before we came on about HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Those 4 things can drive you to do some crazy stuff. You know, you don't feel at peace in yourself for whatever reason. It could be that you haven't drunk enough water and got enough sleep and you're angry that you're not reaching your potential or found what you want to do in life. And to actually take the time to rest, to reflect. And again, going back to the meditation, that quiet space, I don't think I've stopped for 50 years. And then when you actually take a step back and go, well, what is important to me? You know, what do I need in my life? And I need to be healthy is the first thing. And that's the one thing that addictions tend to mess with is your health. You know, otherwise it wouldn't be addictions. They'd just be hobbies, you know? So really, I mean, that's where I'm come from. Recently given up drinking, heavy drinking, which has been really good, habitual drinking. And it's amazing because I don't miss it at all. I actually enjoy not drinking now. And if I have a pint of beer now, that feels like a heavy night, whereas I would have drunk a box of wine. So that's a big shift. And actually with that, my work's improved, my relationships have improved, the influence I have on my children's improved, you know, so there's quite a lot of positives. But again, it can leave those empty spaces sometimes where you think, oh, what should I be doing? And it's like, well, actually, that's where you grow. So I think, you know, those spaces are where you can grow. The addiction, as Gabor Mate says, quite often it covers up the problem. You know, it is the solution that covers the problem. So again,
it's a perfect solution when it's there, but then it very quickly becomes the problem.
You know, and this is what I was thinking about the other day. You know, we have kind of positive coping mechanisms and we have negative coping mechanisms. And a positive coping mechanism would be to get rest, to reevaluate the problem, to get some help, to take small steps to overcome it. Whereas a negative coping strategy would be, I'm going to go and put 4 cans of beer down my neck, or I'm going to go and have a cigarette, or I'm going to go and smoke a joint, or I'm just going to switch off completely and watch TV, although that could be recuperatory. So that might not be so bad. But again, it's all balance. And once you start to look at it differently, which is what my website is about and about what breaking my addictions is about, is trying to look at things a little bit differently and to almost empower you to listen to your higher self a little bit more. The bit of you, your kind of guardian angel almost, that wants you to do well, that wants you to make the right choices, and that will also reward you once you've done it, because he'll go, yeah, there you go, it's better. I told you it would be. You know, you've actually got to trust that that is going to work. But I think the problem is a lot of people have lost that trust in the world. If you've got learned helplessness buried deep in your soul, then actually, what's the point of going to work? What's the point of trying to sort that problem out with my mum or my dad or my brother or whatever that never listens? You know, you get to a point of not trying anymore. And when you lose hope, complete hope, then yeah, the alternatives you take might not be so good. But if you can build that hope back just a little bit, piece by piece, then you start heading in better directions.
That's one of the things I've mentioned recently is you make a lot of progress a lot faster than you probably ever would have imagined you would. Once you make the decision, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get sober. I mean, this applies to everything. It's not just addiction, but obviously that's what we're talking about now. But I mean, it's like when you decide I'm going to get healthy. It's pretty amazing how fast you can get healthy once you've made that decision and you start doing the necessary things to get healthy, of course. But if you don't start doing the necessary things, then obviously you haven't really made the decision. It's something you're just thinking about doing. But one of the things you had mentioned earlier is talk about how your brain never switches off. And I think it's pretty common amongst all addicts. I've said so many times, some of the smartest people I've ever known were addicts. And I'm like, I realize they made bad decisions. Okay. That doesn't mean you're stupid. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't have anything to do with intelligence. Everybody makes bad decisions. It's just that addicts have made probably, I don't know, maybe worse decisions. I don't know. That's not the point. But the point is, as much company as we can keep ourselves, we also feel like we're kind of alone out on this island, and just like we can see the rest of the world, but they're just out of earshot. They can almost hear you, but they can't. So you feel kind of alone, but yet you can see them. It's like, yeah, there's the world right there, and here I am. But then again, it's your inner dialogue never shuts up. So it's like, I should be fine. I should have all the company I ever needed. But it's almost as if we torture ourselves. But then when we do make the decision to get healthy, yeah. And another thing you'd mentioned is like with your family and stuff, and you know, like kids, for example, it's amazing them seeing your example. Dang, dad quit this or dad quit doing that. And you really do have a huge impact on them, whether you think you will or not, or whether you even realize you will or not.
But this,
I mean, you've mentioned that before with your relationship with your kids.
And this is why also it's good to surround ourselves with people who are making that journey, you know, people who are treading that path in front of us. When you hang around, people go, oh, yeah, I've really enjoyed giving up drinking. Wow. Oh, really? That might be a bit of a shock to start with. But if you can find enough of them, and that's why podcasts can be so amazing, because they just spark little bits in your brain of going, I hadn't thought of it like that, not for a long time, you know, or the majority of people around me are not saying it like that. And when you actually start surrounding yourself with the right ideas, it creates a different world for you, because the world is what we see it and what we perceive it. And actually, if we change the way we perceive the world, it's almost like we do a little quantum jump into a different reality. You know, if I see the world as a confusing and hopeless place, then that is what it will be for me, because that's my perception of it. Whereas actually, if I can be around people who don't see it like that, bits of it starts to rub off sometimes, or you just have to admit that they're crazy and you're not.
Right. Yeah, well, in some cases that's true. I mean, we you know, but then again, and then sometimes you often stop and think, well, damn, maybe I am the crazy one. But, and you know what? That's okay. That's fine too. I've accepted the fact that I may be, I don't want to go so far as to say crazy, but maybe I'm a little bit of an oddball. That's okay. I mean, that's fine, because there's lots of us. So, Echo, would you describe that for my audience,
no,
please?
Basically, I just wanted a very simple acronym to actually sum up a way that we can move forward and to break it away. I mean, you've got CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and you say that to people, it's like, well, what does that mean? It just means think about the way you're thinking about stuff. And it's a lot, okay. But Echo is very simple. It's to explore, first and foremost, is to explore different ideas, different information. So Echo, first thing, explore. Start looking at your mental diet and start improving it, because actually if you fill your brain with rubbish, you start thinking in that quality, you know, whereas actually when you start listening to really good quality stuff, like I've talked to you before about, I listen to people like Dr. John DeMartini and stuff, and for me that's really inspirational. For someone else they might not like it, but then go and find what you do like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find certain things not inspiring, go and find what you do, what is going to rub off on you in a good way. Why not? Even if it just improves your day by 5%, if you do that enough, you're going to be in a much better place. So exploring is to go and just fill your head with some slightly different stuff. The Headway book app is amazing. You can listen to up to, I think it's about 5,000 books on there. You can get a lifetime subscription for 60 quid. And you've got 5,000 15-minute audiobooks that just help you. It's like, you'd spend that on 5 pints of beer here in the pub now. You know, it's like, why not invest in yourself mentally? You know, we'll go and spend this much on drugs or drink or whatever, but actually you go, 50 quid for a meditation app. Oh, I don't know about that. It's like, well, actually, quite good value if you cop it over, you know, it's a lot healthier for you. So again, getting those priorities right. So to explore, then connect. So actually go and do it, to just use some of that. You know, if someone tells you that, look at being, I love the Dan Hughes model, PACE, to be playful, accepting, curious, and empathetic. So you've explored, you've learned a bit about that, and then you apply it. You know, you hit a problem like your car blows a tire, and then you go, well, I'm going to be playful. Why am I upset about this? I'm going to be accepting it's happened. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to be curious. Well, it has made me quite angry, actually. What's that about? You know, I'm going to be empathetic. It's tough, isn't it? And you can apply it to yourself. You can apply it. So again, just to explore and then connect, and then you got to harness the result, harness and own it. You know, like once you've done those, you're going to keep that momentum going, like we were talking about before. You're going to go, actually, that worked for me. You're going to reflect on it and go, I'm going to do that again because it worked, or it didn't work, so I'm going to adapt it. And again, you can do this with drugs as well. So, for example, cannabis makes me incredibly anxious. So if I explore that feeling, I'm like, I don't like this feeling, actually. If I properly look at it, I don't like it. And then if I connect that to what that means, it means that I'm going to be there, or, and then I'm going to harness and own it by just shifting it. I'm not doing that. I'm going to choose not to. And then I'm going to really pay attention, explore and connect to not doing it and see if that's better. And then I'm going to own that, harness and own it. So again, if we can just explore, connect, harness and own, that's my idea. It's only an idea. It's just one idea. I mean, I've got other... I just come up with ideas all the time. But again, if we put them into something that isn't abstract, like I talk about having an addiction fingerprint or an addiction story. My story is this world confuses the hell out of me. And I went and did some other stuff instead. I could go into a lot more detail about it, but that's the very basics of my addiction story. And everyone will have their own unique addiction story, which is why it's a fingerprint, because it's unique to you. But again, use the stories that we tell ourselves are really important. I don't know if you know this, but if you put a cold coin on someone's back, like a freezing cold coin, and you tell them it's burning hot, they come up in a burn mark. And if you put a burning hot coin on someone's back and you tell them it's freezing cold, they come up in a cold burn mark. Because the stories we tell ourselves, they even affect our body. If I tell myself I'm not going to get a cold this winter, which I do quite frequently, quite often I do not get a cold. I tell myself that my body is, if I get a sniffle, I don't go, oh my God, that's a cold coming on. I tell myself that's me fighting off those germs that is going to stop me from getting a cold. So again, just that story we tell ourselves, whereas I know a lot of people, they'll have one little sniffle and go, oh my God, I'm getting a cold. And it's like, well, if that's the story you tell yourself, then your body might well believe that. But again, our body and our minds believe what we tell ourselves a lot, which is why hypnosis works so well. Hypnosis is very powerful. We kind of get hypnotized by TV, media, by our friends, by our parents, the stories that they tell us. And there's a very famous story. I mean, just in terms of habit forming, I mean, there's a woman and she cuts the end of the ham hock off every time before they cook and puts it side by side in a tray. And the husband goes, why do you do that? And she goes, well, that's what my mother did. And then phoned the mum up because their oven was too small. That was the reason why she used to do that. They've got a much bigger oven. She's still doing it. What we think we should be doing is not necessarily what we should be doing. And also we're told about our limitations. We're told, oh, you've got an addictive personality. You're not going to overcome that. Well, I had an addictive personality for 30 years and now I have overcome it because I told myself that I could and I started to believe it.
You talk about those stories that we tell ourselves. And that's one of the things that I found was probably the hardest to overcome, is because it's like when we're in active addiction. For example, like in my story is different, of course. I mean, everybody's is different. But with regards to opioid addiction, a lot of people make the decision to get sober long before they ever do. And it's like, well, why would you wait so long? Why wouldn't you just go ahead and do it? And in a lot of cases, it's just, well, in the case of opioids, a lot of it is fear of withdrawal. And I realize there's not withdrawal with a lot of things. Well, that's not true, because even with weed, as strong as it is these days, people are having withdrawals from that. But we make the decision to do it, but we keep telling ourselves a story of it's too hard, or what am I going to do? What's life going to be like after that? And then I guess they just sit around and just doubt and just imagine all of this really negative stuff. It's like, yeah, but how could it possibly be any more negative than what you got right now?
As you said before, I mean, you've got the addiction and then you've got what that addiction has done to your life. So you've got the addiction in the first place that has covered up a load of problems. But while you're in active addiction, quite often those problems are getting worse and worse. So it's not just the withdrawal, the physical withdrawal of the opioids. It's also the fact that you have to face up to the problems that are worse than when you actually chose to start.
Yeah, you're at that point. That's true. You're going to have to, it's like, okay, well, when you do this, now you're going to have to face all that stuff you've been avoiding for years. And then there's also the thing of the emotional maturity, where like if someone is, say, the age of 20 when they start using, and every time they have an issue come up, rather than dealing with it, they go and get high or whatever they do. So they never, ever deal with anything. Okay, so let's fast forward 20 years, and now they're age 40, and they've never dealt with anything. So they've never gained any emotional maturity. So they still have the emotional maturity level of a 20-year-old. And now they're 40. And also, they've still got to deal with all those things they've been covering up. And it compounds by having 20 years worth of crap that's built up. It's a lot. And when you look at it that way, you're like, yeah, screw that. I don't want to have to deal with all that. And at some point, you face all that stuff. But now that doesn't mean it's going to take somebody 20 years to make that comeback. In fact, you can you can really process and deal with a lot of crap pretty quickly when you're when you do get sober and you're doing it from a clear-headed place. Not to mention a lot of the people in your life, the people that you need to make amends with, in most cases, they love you. They just want you to be healthy. And they're willing to let go of all the things that you've done as long as you just come back. But when you're in that state of mind, you're not thinking they're going to forgive me. They're going to let me back in. I'm just going to have to deal with so much crap. But that's the crap that you're telling yourself. It's like what you're filling your head with. You're filling your head with all this negativity, all this reasons why you shouldn't get your life together, reasons why you shouldn't get healthy. Because it's like, well, I'm going to have to deal with so much crap. Yeah, well, you are going to have to deal with some things. But it's pretty amazing how fast all that comes together. I've been sober 8 years now. And I'm doing pretty good. And really, say 10 years ago, if you'd have said, hey, Matt, 1 decade from right now, this is going to be you. And you show me a picture of right now, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd be like, there's no way it's going to be that good that quickly. But it is. It's like, and with our relationships with the people in our family or just people we have relationships with, it's amazing how fast we mend those relationships, I think. I don't know what you think of that. You've mentioned your kids several times and how they look up to you. And that's one of the things that you didn't really realize was going to happen, but they kind of look at you and think, wow, look what dad did. And that makes you feel pretty good. And, obviously.
I think seeing a bit of a ripple effect is really nice, like knowing that potentially it's going to funnel them in a slightly different direction, hopefully. Just the fact that, yes, you say, well, actually, I've changed because of these reasons. And this is why I actually am sticking with that, because it actually feels better. Like it's not just doing it, it's actually understanding why you're doing it. And this is why, it's interesting when you get your head around an addiction properly. I think like Alan Carr says about giving up smoking, he says, it's not about giving it up, it's about stopping. There's nothing to give up. It's a falsity. So actually, once you can get yourself in the mindset that actually it's a negative thing, like no one has to give up the addiction of going to the dentist. Well, maybe something. There's a bad example.
I was just there yesterday, man.
People don't get addicted to things people do get addicted to things that are sort of good for them, like exercise, for example. But again, that is then out of balance. So it is an addiction. And again, just to actually, with smoking, for example, to go, actually, this is just making me feel tense enough in the head that I need the nicotine again to then relieve that. And yes, it's going to be very unpleasant giving it up, or it might be. In fact, that's the story you tell yourself. When I gave up smoking eventually, when I finally cracked it, it wasn't as unpleasant as I thought. Well, a week of being quite mardy, and swearing quite a lot. But I'd managed to kind of reset, but it took me a long time to get there, to get to that state of mind where I actually went, right, that's stopping. And I think this is an interesting thing, that people either give up an addiction because everything's fallen apart and they've gone right down to the ground, or they've managed to improve things enough that they're strong enough to go, I'm making a change. Now, I would suggest it's probably better to do it the way that you make yourself a little bit stronger until you go, I don't need that and I don't want it because it's actually interfering with where I'm going. However, if you do hit rock bottom and you end up in hospital, or you end up with no friends, no money, no kids, whatever, maybe that's where some people have got to go to go back up again. I think it was Oprah who said that, you know, sometimes the house crumbles around you, that basically some people have to wait till the whole house has fallen down before they rebuild, you know, whereas other people, they'll go, actually, no, the paint's starting to peel. I want to paint that wall now. That's, again, this is it, exploring and connecting. You know, we're looking around us and going, actually, that does bother me. You know, that does bother me. I want to do something about that. It might not work, but I'm going to try. And it's having a little bit of confidence in yourself, or building that confidence by actually trying small things that are achievable, not setting your goal too high. It's not like I'm going to go out and get a £50,000 a year job. It's like, actually, I'm going to go out tomorrow and see if I can do 4 hours of work or get an hour's work. You know, like, just start. Don't beat yourself up trying to make massive leaps. Just make small steps and explore those and enjoy, and really give yourself good feedback when you make good progress.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned the dentist. I was just at the dentist yesterday, and the lady was taking me back. And she's like, so how are you today? I'm like, besides I'm at the dentist office, I guess I'm okay. But, you know, I guess my association with going to the dentist is not so great, but whose is, right? Nobody wants to go there.
But again, it's a really good, healthy sign that you're going. I mean, I went
I needed to do
5-6 years without going to the dentist. And actually, if people are listening who haven't been to the dentist for 5-6 years, go and face that demon. Like, that is an important part of your body. You know, like, however bad it is, go and get the help you need to keep that as good as you can. You know, like,
well, and not only they say it can cause cardiac issues.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not just cosmetic. And that is something that a lot of addicts neglect. I mean, really. I mean, we neglect everything. I mean, it comes to the point where everything revolves around our addictions. And if it doesn't serve that, then we're not that concerned about it.
One thing that really helped me, I mean, I started cold water swimming. Again, you need to make sure you're doing that safely. I started running as well, like probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And again, if you're not up for running, then have a walk. You know, in Japan, the doctors will recommend you go into the forest if you're depressed. There's actually a name for it. They will actually prescribe you to go and get back to nature. And, you know, I was watching a Facebook video the other day, and it said, if you have gone to the doctors with depression and you have not seen, you know, more than 2 hours sunlight today, that you've been in front of the screen, you're not eating properly, you're not drunk, you're not slept properly, actually, you probably need to look at those things alongside going to the doctor. And if the doctor doesn't prescribe you to get some rest and to get some sunlight and to get some, then actually what you've got is a drug dealer, not a doctor.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's very true. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I'm really excited about right now, you know, because it's springtime and I've been so excited to get out, just to open the windows. I mean, we've got our windows open in the house and it's great. Even if it's a little cool in the shade, it's still nice just to have the fresh air blowing through the house. It just feels good. I mean, it just does. I mean, and I couldn't explain to you how that is. It just is. It's just good for you to get some fresh air and sunshine.
Yeah. So Glenn, you know, we're back to the stories that we tell ourselves. And, you know, if you're looking forward to spring because you can open the windows, the fresh air and stuff, that's a great story. And it livens the mind up. But likewise with the dentist, if the story you tell yourself is, I'm going to go to the dentist, he's going to tell me how bad my teeth are, it's going to be pain, it's going to be horrendous, I don't want to do it. Whereas actually, if you tell yourself, I'm very lucky to live in a country where I can get dental help, I don't particularly want to go, but I know it's the right thing. Whatever happens, it's going to leave me in a better position than I was before. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. You know, if that's the story you tell yourself and that's how you talk to yourself, you're more likely to go and book that appointment, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to myself for a long time like that.
It seems awful, but it's really not that bad. Once it's over, and you're like, okay, fine. That was 2 hours out of my life and I'm good. I'm better off for it. Much better off for it. So, yeah. But I like when you talk about telling people the stories we tell ourselves, because that's so true for anything, whether it is getting off of drugs, whether it's going to the dentist, whether it's getting exercise, getting out in the sun, doing some yard work, whatever the case may be. We can talk ourselves out of it or into it, whatever we tell ourselves. Like, for example, we were trimming the bushes in front of the house just today, or well, the lovely kitty trimmed the bushes and I cleaned them up after she did. Okay. But, she trimmed them way down. Great. I went out and cleaned that up and did my part and put it away. And while it's like, sometimes you're like, I could put that off for another day. No, because we got out, got some fresh air, some sunshine, got a little exercise, and made the place look nice. So now when we go to work, we come home, it looks nice, and it's rewarding. But I could have easily told myself, I'm too tired or whatever the case may be. I'll do it another time. But no, instead we were like, no, we're going to get out and get this done. It's going to look great. It's going to be good to get outside. And it is. I mean, you feel good once you get outside and get some sunshine.
I mean, I think this is the interesting thing. I mean, we release dopamine, and some people have a much more reliable stream of dopamine than others. And that could be because they're more fortunate in life and they've got things a bit better around them. I know that living out in the countryside now is actually a lot easier than when I was living in the city. So, for example, I believe that keeps me a little bit more sane. But again, when I was living in the city, then I need to be thinking, well, actually, is this right for me? Do I need to be changing this? And if I can change it, to change the things that you can change, but accept things that you can't, and if we spend all our time focusing on the things that we can't change, then we will drive ourselves mad. But actually, if we can just go, well, actually, what can I change today? And like I say, I can go and cut my hedge. I can go and tidy up out the front. I can book the dentist. Making those small changes enables us to be in a better position.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Let me check my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything. Is there anything you wanted to touch on that we haven't?
No, I mean, I think, I think your podcasts are a great thing to listen to if you're going through recovery or just to explore your own mind. So I definitely will be advocating your podcast on my Breaking Addictions site. If people want to come and check out what I'm doing, it's breakingmyaddictions.com. And I'm more than happy to have people on as podcast guests or to contribute in some way to the site or the project. I mean, I just see that there is a great need to address addiction in a way that ripples out and affects people positively, because it affects not only the people suffering it affects their families, it affects the people around them. But for the people who do make those changes, they become the sort of role models and the inspiration for other people. So we can start these really positive ripples moving out, hopefully, if people start sharing their stories, their progress, and actually start to enjoy reflecting on making positive changes.
I've kind of written an intro for this. I mean, it would be more of a description, but I am going to go ahead and read part of this now. Not everyone is a 12-stepper, like with the anonymous programs, and that's fine. And I'm like, listen, there are those 12-step programs. They've saved a lot of lives. They've saved a lot of families. I am not poo-pooing them at all. I am not. However, there are other ways to reach your goal. And that's one of the things, like I said, putting in the description, I was just like, Clive is looking at things from a totally different angle and developing new ways and new strategies to confront addiction and put it in your rearview mirror. And I recommend going to Breaking My Addictions, the website, and exploring some of his ideas. It says, to me, he's more of a roll with it kind of guy, meaning instead of fighting that monster toe to toe, use its own strength against it and allow it to beat itself. With that out of the way, we are left with confronting ourselves and what we need to do with our own lives to make addiction irrelevant, or at least not so dominant. Shifting our focus, when we do that, all we have to conquer is ourselves. That's still no easy task, but at least we've knocked it down to just I against I. I'm still going to put that in the description and everything, but that's the vibe I get from your website and from your podcast, especially when you and Dom are talking. I love listening to you guys talk because I can tell you're old friends. And you guys are so polite, but I'm like, I bet these guys could tell the other one to shut the hell up a good one time. you know, I mean, I'm like, they're so polite, but at the same time, yeah, I can totally see one of them being like, dude, shut up.
This is it. Our lives are about connections. They're about the energy that we have and the energy we share and the energy we receive. And when you start putting out a different level of energy, you start attracting better things towards you. When you're in that space of need and want and you're grabbing onto stuff, it kind of runs away from you again. And, things don't like being chased, and things like come to you. So like you've talked about before, being grateful for what you've got, like you've got to start somewhere. And if you are kind of at peace in yourself, if you're not at peace with yourself, then that's a bit to explore, gently explore it. You might not want to tackle the big bits of that, like it might be some really dark stuff from the past, but what you can tackle is what you're feeling today is like, actually, I feel like very little hope about that, and I want to do something about that. And then it is about attracting the right support. It's about doing the right things that actually move you in a positive direction. If you can go and see a therapist, go and see a therapist. If you can get medical help, go and get medical help. If you can get good supportive friends around you, go and get those good supportive friends. And also be a good supportive friend. Start valuing that in yourself. And if you can find a purpose, that is, I think, one of the main things about being human is we need some purpose. Again, that's back to the stories that we tell ourselves. Like if I tell myself that I have no purpose, that I'm irrelevant in this world, and I'm going to start believing that. If I actually start going, well, actually, no, I write poetry, I write music, I make websites, I help people, I'm kind, I do a lot of things. And even if I didn't do a lot of things, I am capable of doing things that I would like to do. And
you've certainly helped me. You certainly helped me with the website, that's for certain.
I do think that a lot of people struggle because they take more than they give. And I think the way society is set up, we are kind of almost created as consumers, but then we also get enslaved as producers. Whereas actually, if we can actually give what we want to do, like I enjoy doing podcasts, I enjoy talking, I enjoy making websites. So those are the things that I should probably be doing a bit more of, And once you start doing what you value and you see as being purposeful, then you start to value yourself a bit more, I think. So that's my thoughts. Just exploring. And I think podcasts are a great way of just sparking your mind up. Hopefully one of us has said something that will resonate with someone out there.
I'm certain we won't. Yeah, I think so. I've been really excited about getting you on to, because, I don't really do interviews, but I've always known that I'm going to at some point. You can only do a solo ramble so many times, and sometimes I'm like, I can't believe people are still listening to me ramble, but they are. So whatever, and maybe it's just background noise. I would love to think I've kept somebody from relapsing. Of course, that's my ego talking, but that's okay too, I guess. I don't know. But I would love to think that somebody's listened to this and listened to this one time and thought, okay, fine, I'm not going to do it today. And if that has happened, then all of this has served its purpose.
Yeah.
Because there's some kid out there, some mother out there, or whatever, who would be eternally grateful to both of us, because let's just hypothetically, so somebody is listening to this and they were seriously thinking about relapsing today. But since they heard this and they thought, yeah, I'm not going to today, then they did it.
Oh, the dentist instead.
Right. Yeah, they did that instead. That person's mother or son or daughter would be like, yes, absolutely. I am, they would be glad we did this. And me too. I'm glad if I ever found out that were the case, that would be guys, that would be amazing. Just one person, just one person in the entire planet. Yeah. I love doing this because of that, things like that.
Well, let's keep going, because I also believe that there is a space for people to come and tell their story and to actually share, to inspire others. And I think that not only helps the people listening to them, but it helps the person mark where they've got to. And I think that's really important to look at. And I know neither of us are doing this making any money out of it. We're doing it because we actually give a damn. And, we need some more of that in the world. We do need people getting out there and connecting. We have never been so isolated in this world of connection. You might have 1,000 Facebook friends. How many people do you have a conversation on this level? And do you talk to yourself on this level? Because the quality of our thinking dictates the quality of our lives and our actions and the way that we see the world. So start to work on the way that you think, and you will see progress in the way the world looks to you, I believe. That's my thoughts.
I believe you're right. Well, anyway, loved ones, that's Clive. That's my good friend. He's also responsible for the website. Do you have any final thoughts, or do you want to wrap it on up?
No, I just music is a great one as well as podcasts. Go and have a listen to Ren or Electric Six are great, actually. Go and listen to Electric Six. And if anyone wants to listen to my words, I'm a poet, they can type in QR Poet into Google. As QR as in quick response, qrpoet.com, or just type in Spotify and you'll get my music. If anyone gives you any feedback, it'd be interesting to know what they think.
All right, good. I just noticed the time. I'm like, I'm not sure what you've got planned for the rest of your day or evening, I guess, in your case. So I've just noticed the time. I'm like, well, maybe we should wrap it up. But yeah, qrpoet.com. I will put that in the show notes. Thank you. So that, yeah.
breakingmyaddictions.com. And
breaking my addiction.
Get reflective and get creative as well. Creativity. That's what the Creative Monkey Prism's about. We need to be creative, reflective, creative. We are capable of so much change in our brain. We are not set. Even at the age of 50, we are capable of rewiring our brains. And it's a glorious thing to break free from what you thought was like immovable. You can get hope where you didn't have hope. You can get change where you didn't think change was possible. You can give up things that you thought were ungiveupable, and it's possible.
Well, it's like, I think it was, Carl Jung said, he said, we don't start, life doesn't begin until we're age 40. And up until that point, it's just research.
Well, I've certainly done a lot of research. A lot of it was confusing.
Right. That's what I got, loved ones. And thank you, Clive, for coming on.
It's been a pleasure. Really lovely talking to you.
All right. I appreciate it. And that's all we got. And I do love you. And I will be back directly.
50 words, I'll give you love. PCP and angel dust. The tide of confusion rips on. I cut the green, the red, the blue, white bomb. Ripping holes in reality, can't explain. I connect with the mess, close my eyes to the pain. I just wanted things to be normal, but back to depression. My friends, you are welcome. Take all the pills, the unnatural thrills, the blood pumping catalyst for your mental health. It's a bull market. I inhale the stealth hormone, cancerous particles. The Buddha Church has a gun, that's how precise my world has become. 'Cause now I'm defiant, reliance on crystals, red robbing my blindness. I stole some form of forgiveness. Pure white face, cut the tube through the tan, speed through the crash, to be sliding right back to the plastics and faces, the ketamine traces, the childish smiles, whiplash, the cracked, smashed, all concrete babies within the square mile. I just wanted things to be normal, risking my health. I take on one more line. I just wanted things to be normal, but back to depression. My friends, you are welcome. Take all the pills, the unnatural thrills, the blood pumping catalyst for your mental health. It's a bull market. I inhale the stealth hormone, cancerous particles. The Buddha Church has a gun, that's how precise my world has become. 'Cause now I'm defiant, reliance on crystals, red robbing my blindness. I stole some form of forgiveness. I just wanted things